Hey guys, it's Donald Wombat here, and to follow up my recent video breaking down and reviewing the Dregs promise in Destiny, this video will be looking at another one of the new exotics called the Queenbreakers bow. The Queenbreakers bow is the best out of the three new exotics and is extremely fun to use. It is a sniper fusion rifle hybrid. That is, it shoots one high damage shot, but it takes a short charge up time before that shot is fired. It can be tricky to get used to when first using the gun, but with practice and a skilled hand, it can be quite a devastating weapon. It has a really nice look to it, and it is modelled on the fallen weapon commonly used by Vandals called a wire rifle. It has the exact same distinct charge up and firing sound, and I really enjoyed being able to give those Vandals a taste of their own medicine. However, I think they must have aimbots on because they seem to hit me a lot more than I can hit them little bastards. Now, if you do enjoy this video, then be sure to leave a like rating. Before we get into the breakdown too much, I'm going to point this out. The Queenbreakers bow has two different scopes, and they largely change the stats and effectiveness of the gun in certain situations. So with each situation, I'll be looking at the performance for each scope. The marksman sight is your more long distance scope for this gun. It has a much higher zoom, a reduced charge rate, and an increased charge rate, and a much higher impact, and also has a reduced reload speed. The combat sights are obviously the opposite and are made for more close range, mid-range gunfights. These sights deal less damage but have a faster charge rate and a faster reload speed. Now, in terms of sniper rifle stats, the Queenbreaker bow has below average range, stability, and impact. And in fusion rifle terms, its charge rate is pretty average. Not super fast, but it's not slow either. Now, the perks on the Queenbreakers bow are interesting, to say the least. The first perk is hipfire, which increases the hipfire accuracy of the gun. Now, if this were a normal sniper rifle with this perk on it, then I would say that it's completely useless. But the Queenbreakers bow is not your usual sniper, and it actually has surprisingly accurate hipfire. Pretty much where the center of your crosshair is where your shot will go, which is unlike any other sniper where it's more random. Obviously, this isn't how you want to be using the gun, but if you are versing weak enemies in PvE or trying to finish off a weak enemy in the Crucible, then you'll find this perk surprisingly useful, as long as you use it accurately. The three middle perks for the Queenbreakers bow are single point sling, which increases the weapon swap and aim down sight strafe speed, flared magwell, which increases the reload speed, and send it, which increases range and accuracy. For PvE engagements, I like to use the flared magwell, simply because it only has a magazine size of 6, and if you're fighting a lot of enemies, then you're going to be reloading a lot. For PvP, I used a combination of the other two perks. For longer range maps, I would use the Send It perk. The Queenbreakers doesn't have a great range for a sniper, and so range buff is always good to have to make sure you're getting enough damage at range, and an increase in accuracy is always good for everyone. For shorter range map, I was using the single point sling as well as a hand cannon as a primary. The increased strafe speed helps getting those shots off quickly around corners, and being able to swap out weapons quickly is always good if you miss your headshot and hit a body. It really makes it a quick and easy way to swap out and finish them off with that hand cannon. The final perk of the Queenbreakers bow is called Hidden Hand, and it increases the target acquisition of the weapon. Now, this perk is a little tricky to explain, but here goes. All console shooters have a thing called auto aim. When you aim over an enemy, it will slow the movement speed of your crosshairs as you close in on the enemy, and as you move further away, it will speed up again. There are many good videos out there which will show you this more in depth. Basically, Hidden Hand increases the amount of auto aim that you get on enemies, or at least it's supposed to. Now, I've used Hidden Hand on hand cannons and auto rifles with the House of Wolves DLC, and you really notice the difference between a gun with and without Hidden Hand. But having used it on different sniper rifles, I don't really seem to notice a difference as much. I used the gun both with and without the perk in Crucible and in PvE, and the addition of it just didn't really seem to change anything for me. I'm not saying there isn't something there, but it's just so slight in my opinion that it really doesn't make much of a difference. So I've talked a little bit about the PvP side of the Queenbreakers bow, but I want to go a little bit more in depth. Before I do so, some raw damage stats for the Queenbreakers bow. The marksman sight, the longer range scope, does 171 damage to the body and 256 damage to the head, and the combat sight does 152 damage to the body and 228 to the head. For the amount of damage that it does with a body shot, the headshots just aren't that high a damage, and what this means is that neither scopes can one-hit an enemy out of a revive shield, and with Elimination and the Trials of Osiris being so popular at the moment, this is a pretty big thing to be missing out on, especially with the impact that this weapon has. Putting that aside, this weapon, used correctly, is really strong in PvP. As far as a sniper rifle goes, it's really easy to hit those headshots, and the combat scope is just a beast of a scope. It's really clear and just easy to use. It can be quite hard to use at first, and you might find yourself getting outgunned due to the fact that you have to charge up the shot, but with practice and the right amount of pre-charging, this weapon turns deadly very quickly. The gun naturally aims down sights really quickly, and with that fast strafe speed that goes with having single point sling on, you can be around the corner and have a shot fired before the enemy knew what happened. I personally found myself sticking to the combat scope, mainly because of the faster fire rate, and the scope in general being easy to look through, and hit those headshots, but that's all in my opinion, you might find it different. The middle perk that I generally stuck with when using it was single point sling. I'm not that great with this gun, and so I find myself hitting a lot of body shots, so being able to quickly switch to my primary and finish them off was a great thing and got me a lot more kills. One thing that I haven't mentioned up until now, which really affects the gun in PvP and PvE, is the amount of ammo it can hold. It's enormous. It really is a huge amount, and it's probably the weapon's greatest strength. Without any armor that increases ammo capacity for it, it will hold around 80 rounds, and with ammo capacity increasing armor, it will hold well over 100 rounds. Not to mention, you pick up I think 16 rounds from one special ammo box in the Crucible. I expect this will be patched at some stage to be a lot more like the other sniper rifles in the game, but for now, use it to your benefit. The Queenbreakers bow is pretty useful in PvE because of the amount of ammo that it can carry. It doesn't do super high damage for a sniper rifle, but if you max out your ammo, you can simply just keep shooting and it takes a long time for you to run out of ammo. The only problem being that it's an exotic weapon, and obviously it will take up your exotic slot. And I like keeping my exotic slot spare for old mate Gjallarhorn when it comes to PvE. With flared magwell on, it's great for tearing through weak enemies, and the constant damage that you can get on enemies with a lot of health is a great advantage for this gun. In summary, I really love this gun. It looks cool, it sounds cool, and it is a lot of fun to use in the very right hands. It's very deadly. You will probably enjoy using it. I really recommend trying it out. It has its place in the Crucible as a medium range, versatile sniper rifle, and in PvE it can be very effectively used to get constant damage on a wide variety of enemies with its huge ammo capacity. While the Queenbreakers bow is not a bad gun, there are just better guns out there. A good sniper will always beat the Queenbreakers bow when used by players of similar skills because it has a charge rate. It can't one-shot enemies out of res shields, which reduces its usefulness even more. Being an exotic in PvP, it takes away all of the really strong primary weapon exotics that a lot of people prefer to use. And in PvE, it takes away the Gjallarhorn and Icebreaker and other really strong weapons that can be used in PvE. The Queenbreakers bow is great fun and is fun to use, but I really feel that once the novelty of this gun is worn off, it's just going to be one of those exotics that gets hidden deep within a player's vault, and that's a shame because it could have been so much more. So that is going to wrap up this review of the Queenbreakers bow. If you have enjoyed it, then be sure to hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos from me, then hit the big red subscribe button. I've been Wombat, and I'll see you guys later.